If you've been pouring syrup on your pancakes for years, you're not alone. For many American families, syrup feels like one of the simplest, most familiar breakfast choices there is. But here's something most people never stop to question: what's actually inside that bottle? The truth is, many syrups on grocery store shelves aren't what they appear to be, and the label on the front often tells a very different story than the ingredients on the back. This isn't about fear, guilt, or telling you to throw everything away. It's about clarity. Once you understand the difference between real maple syrup and imitation syrup, you can make calmer, smarter choices that fit your lifestyle and your health, especially as we get older. And stay with me, because halfway through this video, I'll show you one simple label detail that instantly reveals whether a syrup is real or fake, something most shoppers overlook every single time. By the end, you'll know exactly what to look for and which choices are truly worth your money. Maple syrup versus pancake syrup. At first glance, maple syrup and pancake syrup may seem like the same thing. They look similar, pour the same way, and are used on the same foods. But in reality, they are made in completely different ways, from very different ingredients. Real maple syrup comes from maple tree sap. In early spring, sap is collected from maple trees and slowly boiled down. It takes about 40 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of maple syrup. That long, careful process is why real maple syrup has a higher price and a deeper, more natural flavor. When you buy real maple syrup, the ingredient list is very simple, usually just one ingredient: maple syrup. Pancake syrup, on the other hand, does not come from trees at all. It is made mostly from corn syrup or high-fructose corn syrup mixed with water, artificial or natural flavors, and coloring to imitate the taste and look of maple syrup. These syrups are designed to be cheap, long-lasting, and consistent, not natural or traditional. This is where labels can become confusing. Many bottles use words like original, old-fashioned, or pictures of maple leaves and farm scenes. Some even use the word maple in small print, such as maple-flavored syrup. These design choices can make shoppers assume the product is real maple syrup, even when it isn't. The most important place to look is not the front of the bottle, but the ingredient list. For seniors, this difference matters. Pancake syrups are usually very high in added sugars and are easy to overuse because they are inexpensive and heavily sweetened. Regularly consuming large amounts of these syrups may affect blood sugar levels and can be harder on digestion, especially as the body becomes more sensitive with age. Real maple syrup is still a sugar and should be used in moderation, but it comes from a natural source and does not rely on artificial additives. Understanding this difference is not about perfection. It's about knowing what you're choosing and why. Why fake syrups became so common. To understand why imitation syrups are everywhere, it helps to look at how food production changed over time. Fake syrups did not become popular because they were better. They became popular because they were cheaper, easier to produce, and easier to store. The first reason is cost. Making real maple syrup is labor-intensive and depends on weather, seasons, and skilled producers. Corn syrup, by contrast, is mass-produced year-round at a very low cost. By using corn syrup as the base, companies can sell large bottles of syrup for just a few dollars, making them appealing to families on a budget. The second reason is shelf life. Real maple syrup is a natural product and, once opened, should be refrigerated and used within a reasonable time. Pancake syrups are engineered to last for months or even years at room temperature. Preservatives and stabilizers make them convenient for warehouses, stores, and home pantries. From a business standpoint, this reduces waste and increases profits. Mass production is another key factor. Imitation syrups can be made quickly in huge quantities, with the same taste and texture every time. This consistency is attractive to large food companies that want predictable results and wide distribution across the country. Finally, there is marketing nostalgia. Many fake syrup brands were introduced decades ago and became tied to childhood memories, family breakfasts, and comforting imagery. Over time, these brands built trust and familiarity, even as their formulas relied more on industrial ingredients. Familiar packaging and traditional names make people feel safe choosing them, without questioning what has changed behind the scenes. None of this means people made wrong choices. These products were designed to be convenient and affordable. But understanding why they exist helps explain why real maple syrup became the exception instead of the norm. As shoppers, especially older adults, knowledge brings confidence. When you know why imitation syrups dominate the shelves, it becomes much easier to decide what belongs on your breakfast table and what doesn't. Common ingredients found in imitation syrups. When you turn over a bottle of imitation syrup, the ingredient list usually looks much longer than you might expect. Understanding these ingredients doesn't require any science background. It just requires knowing what role each one plays in the bottle. The first and most common ingredient is corn syrup or high-fructose corn syrup, HFCS. This is the base of most pancake syrups. Corn syrup is inexpensive, very sweet, and easy to produce in large quantities. HFCS is simply a processed form of corn sugar designed to taste sweeter and blend smoothly into liquid foods. These ingredients are used because they are cheap and stable, not because they resemble real maple sap. Next are artificial or natural flavors. Since imitation syrups contain no real maple sap, manufacturers add flavoring to mimic the taste of maple. These flavors are created in food labs to produce a consistent maple-like taste every time. The word natural can be confusing here. It does not mean the flavor comes from maple trees. It only refers to how the flavor was derived, not its source. Coloring is another key ingredient. Real maple syrup gets its color naturally during the boiling process. Imitation syrups use caramel coloring or other color additives to create a deep brown appearance. Without coloring, these syrups would look pale and unappealing. Finally, there are preservatives and thickeners. Ingredients like sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, and gums help the syrup stay shelf-stable for long periods and maintain a thick, pourable texture. These additives allow the product to sit in warehouses and kitchen cabinets for months without spoiling. None of these ingredients exist to provide nutrition or tradition. Their purpose is consistency, cost control, and long shelf life. Once you recognize this pattern, it becomes much easier to tell imitation syrup apart from real maple syrup. 11 popular imitation syrups to be careful with. Rather than repeating the same points for every brand, it helps to understand that most imitation syrups fall into the same category, regardless of name or packaging. The differences are mostly branding, not ingredients. Traditional breakfast brands include Pearl Milling Company, Log Cabin Original, Mrs. Butterworth's, Hungry Jack, Country Kitchen, and Vermont Made. These products are commonly found in large plastic bottles and are labeled as pancake syrup or table syrup. While their packaging suggests tradition and familiarity, their formulas rely on corn syrup, flavoring, coloring, and preservatives, not maple sap. Store and private label brands such as Great Value, Walmart, and Aunt Maples, Aldi, follow the same formula. These products are designed to be budget-friendly alternatives and usually match the ingredient profiles of major national brands. Lower price does not mean lower quality maple. It simply means a different label on the same type of product. Diet and specialty syrups like Walden Farms take a different approach. Instead of sugar, they use water, thickeners, artificial sweeteners, and flavoring to create a syrup-like product with minimal calories. These are not maple syrups either. They are engineered substitutes meant to imitate sweetness and texture. Child-focused or novelty syrups, such as Eggo syrup or brightly colored character syrups, are made to appeal visually and through branding. They are placed near waffles and cereals to create a complete breakfast image, even though their ingredients are similar to other imitation syrups. The key takeaway is simple. These products are imitation syrups because they do not come from maple sap. That does not mean people must panic or throw them away. It simply means knowing what they are. Industrial sugar-based products designed for convenience and cost, not authenticity. Once you understand this grouping, brand names lose their power and label reading becomes much easier and calmer. Are these syrups dangerous or just low quality? A very important question needs to be answered honestly and calmly. Are imitation syrups dangerous, or are they simply lower quality foods? The answer matters, especially for older adults who want clear information, not fear. For most people, these syrups are not dangerous in small, occasional amounts. Using pancake syrup once in a while on a special breakfast is very different from using it every day. The concern is not about a single serving, it's about habit and frequency. Imitation syrups are mostly made of refined sugars like corn syrup or high-fructose corn syrup. These sugars are easy to overconsume because they are inexpensive, very sweet, and often poured generously. Over time, regularly eating large amounts of added sugar can make it harder to manage blood sugar balance, energy levels, and digestion, issues that tend to matter more as we age. Research does not show that eating pancake syrup occasionally causes serious harm. What studies consistently show is that diets high in added sugars offer little nutritional value and can crowd out better food choices. That's why many nutrition experts encourage moderation rather than elimination. Another factor is ingredient complexity. Imitation syrups rely on flavorings, colorings, and preservatives to stay shelf stable and taste consistent. These ingredients are approved for use in food, but they exist for manufacturing convenience, not nutrition. For seniors, simpler foods are often easier on digestion and easier to understand. So the real issue isn't panic or fear, it's awareness. If a syrup is mostly sugar and additives, it makes sense to treat it like a dessert topping, not a daily staple. Real maple syrup is still a sugar and should also be used moderately, but it comes from a natural source and contains fewer added ingredients. The takeaway is simple. Imitation syrups are low-quality foods, not poison. Knowing that difference allows you to make calm, confident decisions without stress or guilt. Real maple syrup brands that meet purity standards. Once you know what imitation syrups are, it becomes much easier to appreciate what sets real maple syrup apart. Real maple syrup follows strict purity standards and is made from 100% concentrated maple sap with no added sugars, flavors, or coloring. Several brands consistently meet these standards and are widely trusted for quality and transparency. One strong example is Shady Maple Farms organic maple syrup. This syrup is certified organic, grade A, dark color with robust taste, and contains only maple sap. It offers a rich flavor that feels satisfying even in smaller amounts, which helps with moderation. Another well-regarded option is Anderson's Pure Maple Syrup, a family-owned American brand with a long history. It is organic, carefully bottled, and known for its balanced sweetness and smooth finish. Many people appreciate that it tastes bold without being overpowering. Butternut Mountain Farm is a Vermont-based producer that follows the state's strict maple purity laws. Their syrups are available in different flavor grades, allowing buyers to choose lighter or stronger profiles depending on preference. This flexibility adds value for regular users. Coombs Family Farms sources maple sap from thousands of small farms and focuses on consistency and traditional production. Their syrup is organic, non-GMO, and praised for dependable quality across batches. Finally, Kirkland's signature organic maple syrup from Costco stands out for value. It offers genuine organic maple syrup at a lower cost per ounce than many specialty brands, making real maple syrup more accessible for everyday use. What makes these syrups different isn't marketing, it's simplicity. One ingredient, honest labeling, and a flavor that comes from nature, not a factory. Used in moderation, they provide better taste, better transparency, and better value over time. How seniors can spot real maple syrup in 30 seconds. Standing in a grocery store aisle can feel overwhelming, especially when dozens of syrup bottles look almost the same. The good news is that you don't need a nutrition degree or extra time to make the right choice. You can spot real maple syrup in about 30 seconds by checking 5 simple things. First, check the name on the front of the bottle. Real maple syrup will clearly say 100% pure maple syrup, or simply maple syrup. If the label says pancake syrup, table syrup, maple-flavored syrup, or just syrup, it is not real maple syrup. Pictures of maple leaves or cabins don't count. Words do. Second, look at the ingredients list. This is the most reliable step. Real maple syrup has one ingredient, maple syrup or concentrated maple sap. That's it. If you see corn syrup, high-fructose corn syrup, flavoring, coloring, preservatives, or a long list of ingredients, you're holding an imitation product. Third, find the grade information. Since labeling rules changed, real maple syrup is graded by color and flavor. Look for labels like grade A, amber color, rich taste, or grade A, dark color, robust taste. Imitation syrups do not carry these grades. If there's no grading at all, that's a red flag. Fourth, notice the packaging. Real maple syrup is usually sold in glass bottles or sturdy, high-quality containers. The designs are often simple and understated. Imitation syrups are commonly found in large plastic squeeze bottles designed for heavy pouring and low cost. Fifth, consider the price. Real maple syrup costs more because it takes time and labor to produce. Smaller bottles priced higher are normal. If a large bottle is very cheap, it's almost always imitation syrup. Using these 5 checks together makes it very hard to be misled. If there's one message to take away from this video, it's this. Knowledge matters more than fear. You don't need to panic about past choices or feel pressured to be perfect. Food decisions are about awareness, not guilt. For many years, imitation syrups became normal simply because they were affordable, familiar, and easy to find. That doesn't make anyone careless. It makes them human. What matters now is knowing the difference and deciding what fits your life best. Choosing real maple syrup when possible is not about luxury, it's about simplicity and transparency. One ingredient, clear labeling, honest flavor, and when budgets or availability don't allow for it, moderation is still a reasonable approach. A small amount used occasionally is very different from making something a daily habit. As we get older, small choices can make a meaningful difference. Not overnight and not dramatically, but steadily. Understanding labels, knowing what's in your food, and feeling confident at the grocery store all support that goal. You don't have to change everything at once. Even recognizing what's real and what's imitation is a win. From there, you can choose better when it makes sense for you. If this guide helped clear things up, please give the video a like so others can find it too. Subscribe if you enjoy calm, honest breakdowns like this, and feel free to share in the comments which syrup surprised you the most or which one you trust at home. Thank you for spending this time with us. Yeah. And remember, informed choices are powerful choices.